Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Shiba Yemeni Foods, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make sugar cookies. The ingredients which you need for the cookies are 2.5 cups of white flour, 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, 3/4 cup of butter, this is softened or room temperature, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And for the icing, if you want to do icing for your cookies, we're going to make a royal icing, and these are the ingredients which I'm going to use. Some of the things you may not want to buy if you're just going to do it for one time, so it's up to you. You could make it more complicated or less complicated. You need, first of all, powdered sugar. I have this 2-pound bag here, and how much you need really depends on how many different colors you want to make. The second thing that you need is food coloring. These I just got at the grocery store, and these I got at Michael's, so it depends how they have all different kinds of colors, the craft store, so again, that really depends on you. This is meringue powder. This is necessary, absolutely necessary for the royal icing. And some people use raw egg whites, which of course there's a risk using egg whites, so it's really up to you if you want to take that risk. It could have bacteria in it. But if you can find this is meringue powder. They sell this at the craft store, or you can get it online. You need, or I'm going to use rather, these disposable icing bags, and I have tips here in several different sizes. I'm going to go over more of that later. And then you need the couplers, which just go with that. And you also need cookie cutter shapes. So, again, you could do it without the cookie cutter shapes, it's up to you, but it's more fun, of course, with the cookie cutter shapes. First, cream together the butter and the sugar until smooth. Then beat in the eggs until it's smooth, scraping the sides as you go along. Add in the salt, baking powder, and flour, and once again mix it all together until it's evenly combined. So as you can see, the dough was really way too sticky to roll this out, so I ended up adding another cup of flour more than what the recipe called for, so I added 3.5 cups of flour, and I refrigerated it for at least 1 hour. Now this may vary slightly depending upon the climate where you live. Okay, so now you can see I'm rolling out my dough onto a cookie sheet, actually the back of a cookie sheet directly. If you have a flat cookie sheet, that works well, or also parchment paper that you can put directly in the oven, that works great too. What I like to do is flour the pan, the surface that I'm rolling on, and also the rolling pin so it doesn't stick. If you're having too many problems with it sticking, it shouldn't be. So that means you either need to add more flour or refrigerate it for a longer time. Roll this out to about a 1/4 inch thick, or thicker or thinner to your taste. Thinner is going to be a crispier cookie. And then I cut out my shapes directly on the cookie sheet, and just remove the excess around the shapes. And it's important because these are going to go directly in the oven. You need to leave a space about 1/2 inch between each cookie, so don't put them right next to each other, otherwise they'll run into the other one. And I cooked mine for about 5 to 6 minutes, but I didn't really want mine crispy, or I tried not to get them brown on the edges, so this could be a little bit longer depending on your oven. And then remove them and let them cool. To make the royal icing, first sift together the flour and the meringue powder until they're well mixed. Then add the water slowly while beating the mixture. Whip this on medium to high speed for about 10 minutes until you can see the mixture turns really white and fluffy and stiff peaks form. You can see when I try to move it, it doesn't really move very easily by itself. I used a 2-pound bag of icing, but you could use, it was actually way too much for this recipe, so I recommend you use about a 1-pound bag, or even less if you want to do less colors. So now once your royal icing is done, you need to mix it, you need to split it into however many colors you want, and I did 5 colors, so I had 5 different bowls. And then I added the food coloring to each bowl that I wanted, and I didn't really measure it. I just kept adding it until I got the right color. And what I did to tone down the colors a little bit so they weren't so bright was I mixed a little bit of the 2 other colors into the 3rd color. So I put a bit of orange in the purple and green in the purple and so on and so forth. You don't want to put too much because then all your colors will turn to brown. But if you just put a little bit, it'll make the colors muted. Okay, now that's done. Now what we need to do is make the piping icing, it's called. And to make that, you need to add a little bit of water to the royal icing that we just made. And it should be about the consistency of toothpaste. You should add the water slowly because once you add too much water, then it basically you messed up the icing. So just add the water slowly until it becomes like toothpaste. And now you need to put this in your piping bag. And if you think this is way too complicated for you and you don't want to do this many steps, then you can skip the part with the pastry bag and just kind of knife it on there. It won't be as precise, but it'll still look good. Now you can see what the icing looks like when I push it out of the piping bag. So what I did is outline the cookie around where I want the icing to be. And that's going to make a nice clean edge. And you can do however many colors or shapes you want. Obviously, that's the creative part of the cookies. So I showed you mine, but obviously, do what you want, get new ideas. And obviously the shapes too, the same thing about the cookie cutters, whatever holiday you have, whatever shapes you're using, that's gonna, change the colors that you want. So now that I've done the piping, what I need to do next is make the flood icing, which is going to fill in the middle of the cookie. And to do that, you can see I left some of my icing in the bowls from before when I made the piping icing. So now what I'm going to do is add water again to that until it becomes thinner this time. So this time I want it to be like honey. And if you want more information about sugar cookies, I'm going to put a link below to like a really good link for a blog that has more information just specifically on this. And so for the flood icing, again, what I should have done, is probably put it back in the bag and, just push it out that way. But I felt that it would just be as easy to use a knife, so I spooned it out with the knife and spread it around the cookie, making sure to stay inside the piping lines. If you want to get more details, you can wait until that first layer dries and then go back and add more details with your piping bag. Okay, that's my video on how to make sugar cookies and decorate them. I hope you liked the video. If you did, you can check out more videos on my channel, She Be Yemeni Food, and find me on Facebook. Thanks.